Reflection on crime and punishment. From the French criminal codes of 1791 and 1810, certain features characteristic of recognized criminal acts can be distinguished. An act prohibited by the criminal law under the threat of punishment, according to the principle, there is no crime without the law, began to be recognized as a crime. These signs were later transferred in one form or another to all European criminal codes. The whole question is what kind of laws they are based on. Even in the digests of Justinian the Great it was established that no one is punished for thoughts. The deed must meet the sign of reflectivity. That is, to be accessible to human knowledge, it should be possible to compose an objective, independent of the subject description. It should be noted that the impossibility of recognizing as criminal the thoughts and beliefs of a person does not mean the impossibility of recognizing their act as a criminal. External expression, oral or written, addressed to other persons, the legislation of many states is criminalized. For example, offensive and defamatory statements, calls for violence, including those aimed at overthrowing existing institutions of state power. Criminalization of such acts in general does not contradict the principle of freedom of speech due to their objective harmfulness. If freedom of opinion is okay, then freedom of speech is a problem. Acts of offensive and defamatory statements, incitement to violence. What is this formulation? As a rule, any word you say will offend someone, call upon or oblige. You can pull up anyone's tongue as soon as you start to say something. Intelligence officers, investigators, psychologists know about it. The desire to translate the utterance of words into the category of a crime. There is a direct gross violation of freedom of speech. In the history of mankind this has led to monstrous consequences. Calls for violence, including those aimed at overthrowing the existing institutions of state power. In Nazi Germany and the USSR, for such appeals they were hanged, shot, sent to concentration camps. And it is for this reason that these countries turned out to be in ruins littered with corpses. The grief that the inhabitants of these countries received is indescribable. Any desire to frame freedom of speech is a crime against human rights and freedoms. What kind of country is it in which people are afraid of free expressions? Why do many want to live in a country where freedom words are inviolable? For some reason, opposing points of view and openly offensive and extremist statements. Do not destroy these countries but make them stable and strong. Probably in tough debate and pluralism of opinions, truth is born. Two scientists argue proving the truth to each other, one breaks down on insults. I'm talking to an idiot and he says other hard words. The law is the law for insulting the feelings of a scientist, they tied a poor fellow. Truth found, dispute resolved. Crime is an immoral act. I remind you of moral and ethical principles. Deal with others as you want to be treated with you, the golden rule of morality. This rule is rigidly connected with the rights and freedoms given to us from birth. The right to interact, association, cooperation. The right to dispose of property, health, time. Freedom of speech and belief are inviolable. Violence is a punishment for my freedoms and actions with my rights without my consent. Violence against rights and freedoms is a crime. Righteous violence against the offender is required. Right means to dispose and use. Freedom is without restrictions and without punishment. Any restriction of freedom is the scope of what is permitted. Crime is any punishment for freedom of speech and belief, as well as actions with my property, health, time, and interacting with me without my consent. These are moral laws written in a person from birth and have existed since ancient times. Punishment is the deprivation of a person's rights and freedoms. In relation to the criminal must be done inevitably. The whole problem of humanity is that many are not responsible for crimes against rights and freedoms. What responsibility did the legislators, judges, prosecutors who invented and applied laws against Jews, communists and other people bear? If they did bear responsibility, it was not commensurate with their actions. Most of them survived to old age in abundance and satiety. What responsibility did the emperors, kings, dukes and other nobles bear when they began to grossly trample on human rights and freedoms? Everything was in order for them. For any lawlessness, they were not brought to trial. Draw conclusions, gentlemen and ladies. Join a group of noble, moral people. Links in the description. Introduce your friends with this information. See you next time.